Surviving the Applewhites, Chapter 7. Edie had gone to her room to get away from Jake for a while. She must have fallen asleep. She was jolted out of a dream by fires and explosions and by the sound of the crash, followed by yelling, most of which seemed to be her father. She shook the dream images from her muddled brain and left her room just in time to run into her mother, who was emerging from her office, a pencil behind each ear and her computer glasses still resting on the end of her nose. "Where's Destiny? Has something happened to Destiny? Somebody call 911!" she yelled. By the time they reached the scene of the accident, it was clear that Destiny wasn't involved. Randolph, red-faced and fairly dancing with rage, was shaking his fist at a tall, thin, pale, pimply-faced young man with a ponytail, shouting about incompetent drivers and refugees from a demolition derby. The young man, his hands up as if to ward off a blow, was protesting in a high, reedy voice that he wasn't the one who'd been driving like a madman. His words were all but drowned out in a fresh deluge of verbal abuse. He kept glancing down at the thoroughly crumpled front end of an ancient and rusty Civic, as if it were the battered body of a beloved family member. He looked, Edie thought, on the brink of tears. "Daddy's call one! Daddy's call one!" Destiny said. It wasn't clear to Edie that either car could be said to have won, but there was no question that the smashed bumper of the Miata, even caught as it was in the tangle of wreckage, was far less devastating to the car's future than the condition of the Civic's front end. That reminded her of an aluminum can that had been smashed for recycling. Steam was rising from beneath the mangled hood, and greenish-yellow fluid was making a puddle on the ground. It seemed impossible that one car could be so much more damaged than the other. Zedediah, Archie, and Lucille were converging on the bend in the driveway from different directions, all asking questions at once. The window of Hal's room was thrown open, and his voice joined the general confusion. Winston began barking in his deepest and most threatening tone from beneath the bush where he had taken refuge. Randolph was now threatening to bankrupt the young man with a lawsuit charging reckless driving and attempted vehicular homicide. The young man's face drained of what little color it had. Sybil, having assured herself that Destiny was unhurt, scooped him up in her arms. Zedediah, still wearing his sawdust-covered tulle apron, stepped between the two men and rested a hand on each of their shoulders. Randolph stopped shouting, and in the silence the blood gradually seemed to return to the young man's face, though he still looked ready to burst into tears. Under Zedediah's patient questioning, the young man explained that his name was Jeremy Bernstein. He was a writer sent by the Literary Journal to interview Sybil Jameson, and he'd had an appointment for that evening. He had, in fact, been invited to dinner. No, Sybil said, putting Destiny down. "That's not today. I distinctly remember that's not until the 16th. I invited you for the 16th. "This is the 16th, Jeremy Bernstein said. Everybody else nodded in agreement. "Can't anyone in this family keep anything straight?" Randolph said, his voice rising. "You can't just go inviting the media to descend on the household to shatter everyone's privacy, not without at least warning the rest of us." Edie could see her mother's jaw going rigid. When she spoke, it was between tightly clenched teeth. "I am immersed in what is just possibly the most important, the most difficult and complex literary work of my career. I have left the Petunia Grantham mysteries behind. I am striking out into new and unexplored territory. But do you care? Except for this young man here, I doubt that any of you even knows what I'm embarked on. I get absolutely no support from this family. I can't be expected to keep track of details." "Details? You can hardly call today's date a detail. It's the first sign of mental deterioration to lose track of the date." Randolph shook away his father's calming hand and looked at his watch. "This is an unmitigated catastrophe. I'm supposed to have dinner with the president of the board of the Treybridge Little Theater in exactly 20 minutes to talk about my work. These people are none too stable. When I don't show up on time, she's likely to panic and hire some lawyer to direct their show. Some accountant. That's what they'll do. They'll hire an accountant to direct my production of The Sound of Music." He pointed to his car. "Someone will have to take me. My car is ruined. Destroyed." "Don't be stupid, Randolph," Archie said. It's nothing but the bumper and running lights that are smashed. If the headlights still pop up, we'll just rip the bumper off and you can be on your way in 3 minutes. He got into the car and popped up the headlights. See, you'll be fine. Rip the bumper off my Miata? I have no intention of defacing this car. It's already defaced. Do you want to get your dinner or not? The way you drive, no sane person will let you borrow their car. I'll get the crowbar. Archie headed for the barn. Edie thought he seemed particularly pleased with the idea of taking a crowbar to his brother's car. Zedediah took a cell phone from the pocket of his tool apron, blew off the sawdust, and handed it to Randolph. Call the restaurant and tell the woman you've been delayed. Yes, Randolph, dear, Sybil said. You go keep your precious appointment and leave the rest of us to clean up after you. I'm sure someone will take care of whatever we need to take care of with this young man's insurance company. Our lawyer will take care of that, Randolph roared. We don't have a lawyer, remember? He quit after you. We'll get another one. Fine, dear. Meantime, after you've made your call, perhaps you can call a tow truck to take Mr. Bernstein's car to be fixed. Archie, who was on his way back with the crowbar, shook his head. No point in that. It's total. Dead. Kaput. The condition it was in before the wreck, it's a wonder there's anything left but a handful of rust. Now Jeremy Bernstein did burst into tears. Why is that man crying? Destiny asked. Did he get hurt in a crash? Is he going to be all right? Will he have to go to the hospital? Is he going to die? If he dies, what? Sybil gestured at Cordelia to take Destiny into the house. Cordelia took him by the back of the shirt, and he went protesting all the way. Lucille had meantime hurried to comfort the weeping young man. She patted him on the back and assured him that he could have dinner with them, and that someone would take him to his hotel afterward. I don't have a hotel, he said, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. He took the handkerchief Zedediah offered him and blew his nose. Thanks. I was going to find a place to stay after I finished the interview. Then you'll stay in one of the guest cottages, Lucille said. Archie had begun prying the Miata's bumper loose from the car. Edie, please show Mr. Bernstein to Dogwood Cottage. We can deal with insurance issues in the morning. Edie turned and saw Jake leaning against the trunk of a tree. Winston was sitting at his feet, leaning against his legs. The look on Jake's face seemed to suggest he was actually enjoying himself. Car accidents must be right up there with fires for excitement.